Hello React Native developers, I hope you are well. William here recording from beautiful Zurich, Switzerland. Some of you guys have sent me this example on Twitter, which is this really cool custom slider implemented in HTML5. And you've been asking me, can it be done in React Native? I really like this example because we did a custom slider a while back and we use the interactable component, which is now deprecated. So great opportunity to do a fresh custom slider together. This time it's going to be a different kind of exercise because I am doing this completely cold. I just looked at this example and we're going to try to figure out together how to do it. There might be some epic struggles along the way. Let's have a look. How are we going to do this in React Native? Well, we clearly have a pan gesture handler, which is translating a knob on the horizontal axis. And the knob has a couple of interesting properties. So first you see that it's rotating depending on the translation value. No problem. And it has two states. So we're going to overlay two images on top of each other. One image is a woken up penguin and the other is a sleeping penguin, and we're going to set the opacity of each image according to the state of the gesture. If the gesture is active, we have the woken up penguin as an opacity of 1, and if the gesture is inactive, its opacity is 0, and the opacity of the sleeping penguin is 1. And so we rotate, we translate, we see the background, there is this dark blue color, so we're going to set some elements in the background view and scale on the x-axis depending on the value of the translation. Then we have the actual value that goes from 0 to 100, which is displayed. Here, I think it shouldn't be a problem to format this value in the UI thread, so we don't even need to cross the bridge in order to display the value. We can animate string values using reanimated, so that shouldn't be a problem. And we do need to cross the bridge at some point so JavaScript knows the value of the slider. You can decide, of course, when you want to call back to the JavaScript userland. Here, probably we're going to do it when the gesture is released. And before we get started, if you're interested, of course, to learn the fundamental of gestures and animations in React Native, I hope you will check out my online course at startreactnative.dev. My goal with this course is to provide you with all the fundamentals to build incredible gestures and animations in React Native that will run at 60 FPS, even on low-grade Android devices. Alright, so let's get started. I think the first thing I'm going to do is define the size of the slider. So I'm going to create slider width, which is, let's try with width minus 100. We will adjust. And slider height, I'm going to pick 50. Again, we can adjust. So I'm going to create a container for the slider, and we're going to need the pan gesture handler for the knob from React Native gesture handler. First child of pan gesture handler needs to be an animated view, and we're going to have our knob component, which are these two images overlaid on top of each other, which I mentioned earlier. And the animation of these two images is depending on the state of the gesture. So we're going to pass state as parameter. So let's create our gesture handler that we need to give to the pan gesture handler. And so we need two animation values, the state of the gesture. So new value, state, and undefined. And we need the translation x of the pan gesture handler. We have an helper function from Redash to create the necessary properties in order to create a pan gesture handler. So we're going to create gesture handler, and we're going to use on gesture event from Redash, pass the values we need, state and translation. X, perfect. I need to import state Okay, and we're gonna create the knob component. Here already we know that we need to translate the knob on the x-axis. So I'm gonna transform, translate x, and translate x is the translation x plus we need to remember the translation across gestures. So when we release the gesture and we start again, the pan gesture handler starts again at 0, but we need to remember where we were. And again, we have an helper function. This is a very common use case, and we have an helper function in redash in order to do that. So we're going to do translate x equals with offset of translation x. And we need to pass the state as parameter as well. And we're going to need to div clamp the value from 0 to the slider width. So min is 0, max is slider width. We use this div clamp because if we were to continue the gesture on the left side, it doesn't matter how far we are on the left side. As soon as we go to the right side, we want to set a positive value, for instance. So this is why we use div clamp in this scenario. I think I can import it here. So let's do the knob component. So I'm going to create knob.txt. We get state as parameter, which is an animated node of state from React Native Gesture Handler. Perfect. So we know that it's two images overlaid on top of each other. I'm gonna set, let's say, a size of 50 pixels. So we know it's two images. And they are animated, actually, two animated images. Image 1, image 2. So I need to create a couple of styles. First, the container. So, oh, actually, no, if I can, let's see. I think there's a couple of ways, there's two different ways you can do this layout, but here I'm gonna set container style and have an absolute fill for each image. So then we can use the same style for each image. I guess it makes sense. So style sheet, create. So we have container, width is 50, height is 50. And then image, we're gonna use an absolute fill. And so we need to do width equals undefined and height equals undefined. That's what we need to do in React Native when having an absolute positioned image in order to have the resize mode work as expected. So we have source, we have so down. So in assets, down.png and up.png. We can add some style. So styles.image. Looks good. It's a bit too big. I'm gonna set it maybe to 20. I'm gonna need to make it smaller, but and then we have opacity. Actually, we only need to animate the opacity of one, the one which is on top. So this one is good, and here we are gonna have opacity, which depends on the state animation node. So, sorry. opacity. Opacity is 1 if the gesture is active. So opacity equals state equals state active. We need to import the equal function and import image as well. Let's have a look. Okay, so when I press, the penguin is up, down, and we can translate to width of the screen minus 100 pixels. So this works well. We need to center maybe the slider. So here we're gonna do justify content, center, align items, center. And we should do, so this looks not great actually. Align items. Should I maybe here set the container? So slides, slider, and as slider width is slider width, height is slider height. Let's have a look. Yes, much better, but actually not really. Let's display for now just the background slider. We're gonna have the white one and the dark blue one overlaid on top of each other. So we can do the the white one. So I'm gonna create a style called background slider. And the height, maybe let's try 20 pixels. Background color is white. And we have a border radius of, let's say, 10. Yes, I need to move this outside the path gesture handler. Makes sense. Okay, it looks good. So here we simply can add absolute position fill on the knob. And so this one needs to be centered. Thinking I'm just gonna add a justify content here, center. Should be good. So that looks good, but I think here we need to translate by minus half of the size of the knob, and so here everything seems to be, yes, so slider width, but here we should clamp. Let me think. So we need to do some offsetting, obviously. So we go from 0 to slider width. But this actually should be, so translate So X is correct as I think. So if we want to calculate the percent value, I think we are at 0 when X is 0, and we are at 1 or 100 when X is equals at slider width. But the translation we want to do is a bit different. So we want for the knob, so we want translate X, which would be, I think, let's try X minus half of the size of the knob, which is 50. So let's have a look. But that I'm probably missing something because that wouldn't explain completely the behavior I'm getting. But here it looks good, and I love the way it, it moves. We can do the rotation of the penguin. So let me put this into a variable. So here we can have knob size, which is 50. And here it's knob size divided by 2. And we need to add rotate. And we're going to interpolate on translate X. Input range goes from 0 to let's say slider width divided. How many rotations do we want? 10. Let's try 10 and adjust. Output range goes from 0 to 360, so to 2 pi. Let's try. Let's see if how it feels. And knob size, we need to import knob, and yeah, we actually using slider 8. Okay. I'm gonna use knob size 8. Okay. So let's apply the rotate transform. That's rotate on. No, that should be good actually. We should be rotating the knob on the Z-axis from, let me think. We are rotating on the Z-axis, that should be good. And I think it's the default if you do rotate. Let's see. No. I think the problem here is the size of the container. It needs to be knob size, width and height. Because here we are rotating on the center, so we're rotating on the right axis, but the center is not the center of the knob, but because of the absolute position field, it was taking the whole slider width. So that looks good, but it's too much, right? I think. So let's see. 5 rotation. No, should be actually. Let's do 1. So we will have 1 full rotation for if we go from 0 to slider width, and maybe I go from X. Okay, so here, really the translate and rotate transformation don't seem to work well together. I am actually not sure why. Is it because of the translation that happens before the rotation? But I think what I'm gonna do, let's see. What I'm gonna do, I think, is to extract. Yeah, I am not doing here what I think I'm doing. So it's okay. I'm gonna do just the translation, pass the rotation, just rotate the image and not rotate the container view. So we would just rotate the knob. Or actually I could do it here maybe. Animated view. So style is an absolute fill object. And we have a transform with the rotate. This should work nicely, hopefully. Yes, perfect. And so we have a full rotation. We can, I mean, that's good. We could change it to have 2 rotations. Oh, sorry. I can even change it here, actually. Let's have a look. Yeah, pretty fun. It's a fun one. So now we could do the background progress, and we're gonna have here the background slider, but we're gonna have a different background color. And I'm gonna use primary color here. So style sheet, style guide, palette, style guide, palette, primary. And we need to add some scale X transform. So scale X, also we interpolate on X. So when we're at 0, scale X is 0, and it's 1 when we're at slider width. Let's have a look. And it needs to be an animated view. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so here it looks like... Okay, so first I forgot the absolute position fill, which I can put here. And we need to translate. It's pretty close, but we need to obviously translate on the x-axis. Translate x, and if we're at 0, we translate by minus half of the width of the slider, and if we're at 1, we translate by 0. Is that? Let's see, interpolate. So on X, input range goes from 0 to slider width, output range goes from minus slider width divided by 2 to 0. Let's have a look, no. At 0, so do we need to interpolate by slider width? But since, no, it's not. We actually, what we need to do, I think, is actually to transform the origin of the scale x value. So I'm going to do translate x minus slider width divided by 2 and set the origin back to the slider width divided by 2. So translate x. Let's have a look. So here you see, because the origin of the translation was from the middle, what we did here is we simply change the origin of the translation to the left side. So from the middle, we go to minus half of the size of the slider. We do the transformation as expected, and then we set back the translation to the original coordinates. And so this is how we do origin transform in React Native. So that looks very good. No, this is not good. Actually, we are missing the border radius. I think here we could do a trick, simply have it overlaid actually here on top. So I can have some style. So we need some absolute position fill again. And so background color. We're gonna need the border radius. So height 20. So border radius 10. And width, let's say 20. Let's have a look. No. Let me set like green here as a color so we can see it. That's a problem. Let me think. I mean, border radius is 10, so should I do left equals 10? Let's see. Okay. Yes, that looks good. So here, basically, I think it scales more to the width. Yeah, you see it actually here. And right is 10 as well. No. No border radius. That now looks good. So here I can set the color to the blue color. Okay, so that looks good. And now we can do two things: display the values like in the demo, so from 0 to 100. And at some point we need to call back to the JavaScript userland, so we can do that as well. And what I'm gonna do here is to have, so the way you display animated values which are string in React Native is that you use text field input and set an animation value which is a string. And in Redash we have a simple wrapper for that, which is called retext. And this takes as parameter a property which is called text, which is an animation value which is a string. So we're gonna have text equals, let's say, label, and label is, so we use concat to cast the numerical value as a string, and the numerical value is x divided by slider width. So that would go from 0 to 1 times 100, and we're gonna round the value, sorry. So we need concat round divide and yeah, here we need multiply by 100 using the multiply function. Okay, so we go from 0 to 1. Yes, because I round the value, which so it's gonna round to either 0 or 1. This one should be good. Okay, so we go from 0 to 100. That's perfect. Okay, so now let's cross the React Native bridge. For instance, we can cross the bridge whenever we want. Here, let's say as an example, we're gonna send the value to the JavaScript userland when we release the gesture. So first we need to extract here the value, which is what we want to send to the JavaScript thread. So value equals this expression. And we're gonna use code to execute a block of animation nodes. And so when the gesture is at end, so state.end, we use the call animation node to call back to the JavaScript thread. We pass the arguments we want. Here we want to pass value as parameter. We get it back in the JavaScript function, and I'm gonna display it in the log. So let's have a look. So I have some syntax error here. Should be good now. So I move, let's see. Yeah, you see 57 is logged. So every time I release the gesture, we cross the bridge and we get the value. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this example. As you've seen, to do it cold is a bit more complicated. At some point, for instance, I was doing the translation and rotation at the same time, and I really didn't get a sense of the transformation I was actually applying to the knob, and you saw how I resolved it. Actually, you know, I did it on the fly, realized the transformation was not correct, change the hierarchy of the transformation, even though I'm still not like 100% sure why the transformation was wrong in the first place. So you see, when we do these examples cold, it's a bit more tricky, but hopefully also you see how I'm trying to navigate the problems that arise when building such animation. I'm looking forward to talk to you soon, and in the meantime, happy hacking.